name, not the song name that I have. I'm like, yeah, totally not sure about. But so this is a very well. We'll just let the people hear it. So we'll listen to it for 90 seconds, and then we'll talk about what went into it.
Cool. Take some time and slow it down, like now. In this world, you're not alone. At home, if there's something you can do that's true to me and you, stay home. I want to stay home with the rest of the world, holding visible hands. Hope you are still as well. There's patience for minds as we tend to our minds. Hold on to your heart and remember to be kind. Take some time and slow it down, like now. Do or try to change the world. We all know what to do.
Oh yeah, it's basically a COVID Beatles nostalgia something.
Yeah.
You know,
That's it.
super cool. Tell me a bit about this track. I don't know what your role was beyond drumming, but you could just talk about whatever you contributed and whatever was interesting about it. You know,
So it was written by a guy called Joe Kane, he's actually a Paul McCartney impersonator, and he's a good
that was
friend.
the bass player.
Yes, he also sang parts of it too. So he's real sort of power pop songwriter. He's got a great project on the go at the moment called The Poppermost, which is real sort of pastiche of early 60s Beatles stuff. It's incredible. And I've worked with him a lot over the years. And he partnered up with a chap who I actually don't know called Marco, who has an analog studio up in Glasgow. That's where they're from. And this was like you said, it was a lockdown song that they used to raise some money for. I think it was, I forget which charity it was. They sort of gathered a lot of musicians from our sort of little Beatles scene to come and play on this track. And the reason I picked it is because Joe's such an interesting guy to work with, and I think he, in terms of drumming, for me, it's like the furthest along the sort of Beatles track that I get. You know, he really writes in that style, and it's proper nostalgic sort of power pop, if you like. And I think that's why I kind of chose this, because it's the furthest, as far as it gets.
Yeah.
So he was, and he's also almost like the perfect artist to work with, because he's got fairly strong ideas of what he wants from drums, but he also leaves me enough room to interpret what I want from the drums too, or what I feel. And that's kind of obviously every situation is different, but on this particular track, it was, there was a couple of real direct references where he kind of said, this is the kind of thing, when we wrote this track, this is the kind of thing we were thinking. So something along these lines, but, do what you want within that sort of thing. And those that's my favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite way to work. And there's a nice section in the middle where it's kind of similar to Hello Goodbye, where you kind of got those nice creative fills, sort of musical fills going on, which I thought was quite a nice thing for them to add. I think they wrote it knowing I would be playing on it, and
that's cool.
Yeah, I think it's kind of nice that they put that bit in there, because it let me do my thing a little bit, which was kind of fun.
Yeah, awesome. Did you do any of like the processing on the drums afterwards, or that was all done afterwards?
So again, when I generally work with artists, I have about 15 or 16 mics on the kit, which I don't ever intend for anybody to use all of those mics. Obviously, that's obscene.
Yeah.
It's setups within
Not for
setups.
everyone, by the way. For nostalgia recording, definitely.
Yes, there you go. This is what we're going for. Yeah. So it's setups within setups. You know, I've got a couple of mono overhead options, and there's some stereo overheads, there's stereo rooms, and all yada yada. So the way that Joe was working at that time was, don't worry about sending me all of those mics, because we'd worked together enough that he knew what my deal was. It's just don't send me all of those things. Just send me like a drum mix, and that was really fun because I got to do my own mix, and then he's got a load of sort of analog stuff at his place that he ran it through and did his things. He's got a couple of valve pre's that I think he uses for summing and that kind of stuff. So I sent him a mix, and I don't remember if this happened on this track or not, but often at that time when I was working with him, I would send him a drum mix and that would be his basis. And then when it came to mix stage, if he felt like he needed more of any particular drum, I would then send in the single stem for that drum, which I thought was quite a nice way to work from his point of view.
It's like backwards, you know?
Yeah. And he's going, like, I can't get enough kick drum. Could you send me the kick out mic? Yep. And then the kick drum got to where he wanted it to. And that was a really nice way to work. Because again, kind of let me be creative with my mix, but he also had some control over his end about how it sort of fit in his track. Yeah, it was a fun.
Did you compress it with like Fairchild emulations and stuff? That was the vibe.
That's exactly it. So I've got a little. I'm on my third generation of Beatles style drum bus. So I've got the saved drum bus that's called Beatles Drum Bus 3. And it's got the Fairchild and it has a Fairchild, Pultec, and J73, and I think that's it, because I don't generally put it through the mastering for when I'm sending it to artists. That's just for the isolated drum stuff. But I love the way, obviously, those it's got to go through the tape, and then it's got to go through the Fairchild and the Pultec, because that's they're the sort of the classic fattening sort of vintage vibes.
Yeah, amazing. Well, the track sounds awesome, and I'm loving what you're doing. I just have a couple more questions for you, and I think we can wrap the episode. There are days where we're all kind of super pumped to get into the studio, and there are obviously days where we're tired, burnt out. Do you do anything to stay inspired, to stay creative, to get your energy back?
The thing I do the most, which I got from Aaron Sterling, drummer, John Mayer drummer, and does a lot of remote recording. He talks about listening to music a lot, and that's something I really try to do, is push myself constantly to listen to new music, not whether it's new music to me or just new music in general. Because I do a lot of sessions that are not Beatles related, a lot of sort of contemporary pop sessions, and which involves programming and that kind of stuff, and knowing.
Cool.
So you got to have an awareness of what's going on outside of your little, your little bubble. And artists that Wilco, for instance, if I'm feeling uninspired, you put a Wilco album on, and suddenly inspiration just comes flooding in. It's great.
Love it.
Yeah. So I listen to a lot of music.
Yeah, definitely. That's like that's what it's about, right? We got into it for the love of music, and we got to keep listening to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I ask this question to everybody on the show, and I'll ask you as well. When you were getting started in your journey, was there something that you maybe didn't do that you'd want to impart on yourself, your previous self, like from today, that, hey, this was a good move, or maybe don't do that. That wasn't so smart.
I guess I could answer that question in two ways. So one of the things that I did at the very beginning of my journey that I haven't actually talked about yet in this conversation is I gave away free sessions for a whole month in January. I put a sponsor post on Instagram that said free drum sessions, and I was inundated. I think I played on 60 sessions that month.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Because I was learning, and I thought, if I'm giving stuff for free to people, they've got no expectations of me, and I can just send, I'm learning my processes. Things like, at that point in time, I didn't know you could export all tracks from Logic.
Yeah.
So I was bouncing individual tracks, and it took me forever. And then someone said, you can do this. And I was like, whoa. Whoa.
Yeah, like 2 clicks, done.
Amazing. So, I was learning that helped me learn my process. So I would say that was a beneficial thing, but it also damaged my mentality about how much I was worth. And I think there's an argument for being respected more when you're charging money for something. So I would say, and that kind of ties into the second way I would answer that question, is just be more relaxed and confident in your place in this, in the world, in this industry.
Yeah.
Be less paranoid about whether anyone's judging what you're doing. Because that's the kind of a point. Yeah.
It's a difficult
that's
lesson.
Where I'm at now.
Because for sure. I totally hear that. I'm always a little bit in the imposter syndrome zone. Like, am I really good enough? Am I really doing a good? Am I? Is this what I'm actually good at? It's hard, and we psych ourselves out all the time. I psych myself out all the time.
I do.
Just
I'll send somebody some drum stems, and if I don't hear from them the next day, I'll re-listen to the track I've sent them 2 or 3 times, trying to work out why they've not got back to me yet. And I do it less now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty relaxed about things now. But there was a period of time in the early days of the business when I wasn't like that, and I was just anxiety ridden, losing sleep at night about whether or not I'd done a good job on someone's song. And I'd like to go tell myself back then that, 9 times out of 10, the email would come through and it would be gushing. And you're like, suddenly you just release all of that anxiety. And I wish I could tell myself that 9 times out of 10, it's going to be okay. And if there is feedback, it's not going to be you're crap at drums. It's going to be, do you mind if we try a different snare sound?
Exactly.
And that's fine. Yeah, of course we can.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
We got to chill ourselves out. Totally. Stop psyching ourselves out. It's such a great lesson.
Yeah.
Joe, wow, I really loved chatting with you, Joe. This has been really, really fun. And I learned a lot. And there's a lot of interesting little lessons for the audience here that are a bit different than the usual lessons people learn on the show. But I think they're still really valuable. And I love geeking out about, nerdy recording stuff. So that was really, really fun. How can the audience find you? And could you maybe just tell people where to find whether it's your business or your podcast or your samples? Any of that stuff.
So my website is allyouneedisdrums.com, and everything is on there. So there's a link to the isolated drums. The whole archive of drums I've done so far is up on there. So it's literally just there on links to my Dropbox. You can just go on there, download my drum stems, and do whatever you want with them.
Amazing.
Yeah, they're all there. And there's new ones every week. So there's more to be added. All the time. My podcast is called That 60s Recording Podcast, and is just available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Amazing.
And I'm on Instagram at All You Need Is Drums, and they're the best places.
Amazing. So I'll link it all up, and people can go find you there. Joe, what a pleasure to have you on. Great to meet you, and hope to stay in touch.
Likewise. Thanks so much. It's been really fun.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Secret Sonics. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Joe as much as I did. If you enjoyed this episode or any of our other episodes, I'd super appreciate it if you would go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It really helps the show. And if you could share this episode or your favorite episode with a friend or two, that would also really help the show move forward. In addition to that, you can find us on social media. Just search for Secret Sonics. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And you can email me at secretsonics@gmail.com if you have any comments, feedback, guests you might want to recommend, anything like that. So that's about it for now. Until next time, I hope you guys have a great week. Stay safe out there and dig in. Bye-bye.